Okay, Facebook. It's Ali here with a live market review. Hope you're all doing well. Let's go and have a look and start where we always start, which is on the S&P. So as I said, hope you're all doing well. Hope all is good. We will go through the major indices, come look at some of the commodities and currency pairs, and just do a little bit of review and see where things are. So looking at the S&P again, the S&P, same for the S&P. We'll just switch to the Dow so you can see it for comparison. Dow just slightly behind, hasn't quite done it on the Dow, but the S&P has made new highs here on the futures. You'll notice that we keep retesting this daily 50 moving average. So we almost got a hit here. I'd class that as pretty much a retest. But you can see we keep retesting this daily 50. So at the moment, for me on the S&P, there's no reason to suggest any downside. We're not making any lower lows. Can readjust this trend line a little bit here. So obviously we've got the big trend line that comes in from the lows. You'll see this pop in from 2020. You can see that come in just here. So it's slight readjustment. So we've just cut through that because obviously this low here is now made, this higher low is now made a higher high. So that trend line's still valid. For me, keeping it really simple, we've got new upside here. We haven't actually had a setup for us. We have gone higher. For me to have any sort of downside interest, and that would be very, very short term, we need to see one of these lows broken, and not just the trend line being broken, but a clear lower low off here. Now that again wouldn't mean I'd suddenly be short left, right and center, but that would be the absolute minimum. In an ideal world, I'd want to see that and then that low broken, and then obviously we've got a few of these markers on the way down, but that would be what I'd be looking for. And that would be the same really on the S&P as it would be on the Dow. Although the Dow is just slightly behind here, it would be the same idea. At the moment, the Dow did give us that lower low just here, and if we look back at the S&P, we didn't get that. So the S&P a little bit stronger if we're looking at the higher lows just there. So the Dow did do that, but again, I would look to see that happen as a minimum before I would start viewing things in any differently. Quick comparison to the Nasdaq. You can see the Nasdaq's leading here. We had a long trade set up in July. You can see this is an example of really having to hold your trade. We went up. A 2-to-1 target on this one hasn't quite been met yet. We're getting closer. But this is a classic example of where you get a trade where everything is in your favor, but then the price action that follows your entry is not necessarily what you'd ideally want. And this is where you have to switch off from what the price action is. You can see, look, we've gone sideways, and essentially that trade, that swing trade, has spent the best part of 6 weeks going sideways. Then we come down, and that makes a retest to the 50, very much like the S&P did at the time. And then we've come up and broken those highs, and now price is edging closer to that target. So that's what you can't control. Obviously, as traders, we know that. Knowing that intellectually is very different than actually specifically doing this. So a lot of our guys sitting in this one, and this is where knowing other traders are doing the same thing as you, and for the right reasons, because the setup met all the criteria. Often that can help you stick in trades. But as you can see, look, went up, went back up, dipped, went into drawdown, and is now getting close to target. So we'll see what happens with that one. So that's the S&P, the Dow, and the Nasdaq. As I've said, overall for me, it needs to be a clear break of this trend line and then a clear new low for me to change my opinion at the moment. There's nothing to suggest from a technical point of view any downside at the moment. Right, let's go and have a look at oil, because oil's been at the business end of things for us. We've had a hugely successful run for the last year and a half on oil, both with the trend setups, our monthly oil trade that a lot of our members trade. Had that again this month, so we had a break to the downside. You can see there we'd already had a short trade. I was already in oil, so as I said on the last commentary, I was short up here, short again here. My swing trade from earlier on in July, that hit target. You can see that there, so that hit target. So that was a nice 2-to-1 winner there, and we had a lower time frame entry on that gave me, I think, about a 3.1 to 1. So although the lower time frame entry was at half stake, overall that was a nice healthy 3-to-1 overall, 3% winner on oil. So I was happy with that. And then our monthly trade, our monthly setup, we were triggered short. The guys that trade a fixed entry on that, they were out at 2-to-1. and then you can see here we came down and we almost got these lows. Now again, I wouldn't say this was a strong significant low, but you can see that we've had a fairly big bounce. We're back up here at the daily 21. So for me, with oil now, with this bounce that we've had this week, essentially, if you look at it, it's not too out of the ordinary. If I just pop in, it's not an exact trend channel, but you can see there's a little bit of a trend channel in here. So oil's back up at the top end of that. That's not an exact trend line that you can see there, but we're up near that 2021. So for me, it's all about what price does between here and here. So with the 21 moving average, will that act as a resistance? If we break that, will the 50 act as a resistance? If we get past these two levels, also relative to the percent of that move, you can see if that's the move down, if we get past these two levels, I'd be more inclined to see price getting back up and at least testing these highs or getting back up to these highs here. So at the moment, nice a nice retracement here. Not for us the guys that are running the trailing stop. We would have liked that to have gone lower, but we still had a good winner on oil as well. So for me, it's all about what oil does here. Do we push higher and get a daily close and then run that up to the 50? If that happens, do we then get a daily close above and push on? Or do we roll back down and then get a retest of these lows? Because if we do that, then there could be further downside to the lower point. That orange line, that is just representing the weekly 50. So I'm going to get rid of that. So that's just showing where the weekly 50 is. So if we do get a retest of these lows, then, and I'll just go up to the weekly chart, then I would be definitely looking for a retest of the weekly 50 here, and then another possible reaction or bounce at that level. But as you can see also here, not only is it the daily 21 that is acting as a little bit of a reactionary point, that may not hold. You can also see that is also in line with the weekly 21. So we are hitting a bit of moving average resistance here. It will be interesting to see what the price does. And we are also in line with those previous highs from back here. So again, really interested to see what oil does from a technical point of view over the next coming days and probably the next week. So we'll see as we go into next month, and we'll have our next oil trade coming up at the start of the month on that as well. So that's all about those moving averages on oil. Let's go and have a little look at euro. So euro, interesting one here with euro. I'm going to jump up to the weekly chart. So on the weekly chart, you'll see we've got these lows that are clustered together. So there's not really a clear clear support level here, but we have got these lows that you can see showing up. So we've got two lows from back here, a low from back here, lower highs. It's really, for me, whether or not these lows hold up. So the reason there's that rectangle there is we're in this zone at the moment where I'm looking to see what euro does. So for me, it might be that in and around these levels we get a bounce, and then I'll be looking at the 50 and the 21. Do we come back up and then push back higher, or do we roll back over and come in for a retest? So if we get that retest, or we come up a little bit higher and come down, then for me it will be about further downside past here. You've got the weekly 200 here, which is flat. Now it may be that we want to bounce off that. Even though it's flat, it might want to give us a little bit of a reaction. You can see sometimes price in the past will react to that. We'll have to wait and see. So we're stuck a little bit here. Short term, I'm just going to nip back to the daily on this because I want to go and just show you slightly shorter term. If we look at that daily chart, you can see there's those support levels from further back. If we break the trend line, however, and we push past this trend line, then we may get one of our trend line break setups if price can show us a high above these highs. Ideally, one above this high would be okay, but ideally above these two highs. And then again, I would be looking towards this daily 200, but just around that level as well is that weekly 50 and weekly 21. So if we do get a move into this zone, we could get a setup, but I would be wary where those moving averages are on that one. So for me with euro, if we take these lows out, I'll just go back up to the weekly. We take these lows out, then for me, further downside, and there's a bit of chop in here, so price might react to that, but there's not a huge amount based on the weekly and daily chart in the way if we take those lows out. Back up, bit tricky on the momentum. So for long trades, yes, we'd have the trend line break, but longer term, I'd want to be in this little area here, and then I'm obviously wary of these highs If we get above those, more upside there. But that's a little bit far away. Short term for me, it's keeping an eye on these lows and whether we take those out and how price reacts to this area here, this trend line. Do we roll over and start taking out each of these lows? We'll have to wait and see. So that's euro. Pound, I wouldn't say it's exactly the same, but it's a similar scenario. We've got these series of lows. You've got these lows down here that you can see. Here you got the 2021. They're not the lows, but a little bit of support. The 2021 lows are a little bit lower, but it's really the same thing here with cable. Will we come up, watching the two daily moving averages just here, and then will we come down and take these lows out? So I'm keeping an eye on that. There's a little bit of a trend line in there that I can pay attention to as well. So will we get above that? If we get above that, and certainly if we get above these highs, I would be looking for a retest up here, and that could offer up a possible trade in there. For me, if we take these lows out, then we've got plenty of clean air below. Now I want to go up to the weekly on this one because then I can show you where the weekly chart is. So you can see, look, we've had a bounce and a test. Nice bounce originally off the weekly 50, stuck in between these two. So at the moment, you can see price is sitting between the weekly 50 here and this weekly 21. So it's not able to really break out of that. So we come back down for a second retest, and often that can mean price is actually going to roll over, but we've bounced again. So if we come down again, you can see we would essentially be below these highs. We can get a nice clear low below these prior highs and these lows here. So this support, this resistance, then I'd be looking for further downside towards the weekly 200. And then really from a price action point of view, you've got plenty of clean air on the way down. So yeah, stuck in between. So for me, I'm keeping a close eye on pound against US dollar and seeing whether or not cable can kind of break out of this sideways pattern that it's got here. I want to go to US dollar CAD because we've had some nice trades on US dollar CAD over the last few months, but you can see here, interesting one, similar scenario in terms of the moving averages, not trapped quite as much, but again, you can see we've come up to the 50, we pushed above it, actually got a weekly close last week, come back down here. So again, if we can get above this level, we are really out of harm's way, and if we can get above that level, then we will be looking for, with the trend setups, up towards the 135 mark. You can see there in that area there. So at the moment, classic trendline break, pull back, another go, starting to pull back again. So it's really keeping a close eye on what happens here. So you can see we've had a move up, pull back, still slightly in between these moving averages, as I said, but we've gone a little bit higher. So for me, if we can break those highs and get above that weekly 200, then we've got plenty of clean air above that. So that's US dollar CAD. And then lastly, we'll have a little look at yen. So yen for us has been, again, stuck. We've been watching yen. We were getting very close to potential reversals up at the 2020 and I think it's 2019 high. So we've got the resistance level up here. Lovely clear resistance level. We were heading in the right direction, but as you can see here, for the last sort of 6, 7, 8 weeks, we've just been chopping sideways. So for me, if I just zoom in and go down to the daily on this one, I would be looking for price. If it can just get out of this sort of sideways move here, we were heading in the right direction. We've been going sideways most of the summer. So we come out of summer, if we can take these highs out and then get up here, I'd be more confident of these highs being at least tested and then potential reversals. The tricky thing here is if we get above this high, it's going to be a little tricky. We might be able to pull in a possible trade in that little zone, but I don't like taking with the trend trades when I get too close to significant support and resistances. We might be able to squeeze one in. Certainly, looking at this from the downside point of view, really nothing downside wise until we were in this zone here. Then I'd be looking for with the trend trade. Sure, I wouldn't be looking for an against the trend trade at these lows. It's not a low enough area. But if we can get into this zone, then we've potentially got some room and we are below the weekly 50. There's a little bit of clean air before that, again in here. So with yen, it's a little tricky. There might be some tight with the trend moves here and here, but it's a little bit tighter. Certainly if we can get below that, then we've got lots of clean air down there. So that's it. Got some interesting news coming up for you guys as well. We have a couple of free webinars. So if you're watching this and you are not a member of Traders Support Club, head to traderssupportclub.com. Just search that in Google. Head to the main website and click on any of the Start Right Now buttons, the blue buttons on the website, and join up as a free member, because I'm going to be doing some free webinars in September. We are also upgrading our Kickstart, our cornerstone program. We're going to be upgrading that. So you want to be on the email list so you can hear all about what we're doing with that. So yeah, we are putting some more updates into both our private Facebook group, and if you want to join that, you need to be a member. So head to the website and click on any of the Start Right Now buttons. So we have got some more of those, and we've got some more free material turning up on our free member site as we go into the latter part of Q3. So lots happening. Hope you found that useful. I'll be back in touch with you again very soon.